Good morning and welcome to the first jimbowalks Q&A video. You join me today under the A395 motorway beside the Monachil River, which is now completely dried out. Really not sure why I decided to film this here. I've been through here on a number of times as I've done river walks, and it seemed like quite a cool place because of all the graffiti and everything, but actually I don't really want to hang around here for too long. I put out a post on all of the jimbowalks social media channels about a week ago asking for questions, and I was really overwhelmed by having so many responses. Thank you so much to everyone that submitted a question for today's video. The vast majority of the questions came from friends and family, so thank you so much to everyone. And yeah, let's get started. So our first question came from Sophie, my sister, via Instagram, and she said, what is your earliest camping experience? So I went to Beavers, Cubs and Scouts when I was a boy, and yeah, it had a really lasting effect on me. In some sense, that environment really took me out of my comfort zone. It's a very hyper-masculine and competitive environment, and I wasn't really the most socially adjusted child, so I did find that type of environment quite stressful sometimes, but I'm really pleased that I had the opportunity to do that. Camping with the Beavers and Cubs and Scouts is a world away from camping today. That was big, heavy canvas tents with big, heavy wooden poles, big, thick ropes. It was a serious effort, but it was really beneficial. It was an experience that was always quite challenging, but at the time it wasn't always the most enjoyable, I'll confess. But I now realise, as with most things in life, those experiences that really challenge you and push you are actually often the most beneficial in the long run. So yeah, my first memories of camping was in and around Oxford, camping in the woods, and here we are today, 30 years later, and it's still very fresh in the memory. Thank you for your question, Sophie. Mental health benefits and physical health benefits. Our next question comes from Ian. Ian and I are friends from Oxford, and we went to university together as well, so yeah, he's a long-time friend. And Ian's question via Twitter is, what's the best thing about being surrounded by nature? I had to really think about this because there are so many different ways you could approach this. There are so many different benefits in different ways. But I boiled it down to two main points: mental health benefits and the physical benefits. To take the latter first, I'm not the most gym-going person, as you probably noticed, and my lifestyle here in Spain is not the healthiest. So camping really gives me an opportunity to push myself physically, get that heart rate up. It's really excellent cardio. I mean, I'm sometimes walking for 8 hours in a day, and it's really my only major physical activity. So yeah, the physical benefits of being out in the nature, hiking and camping and walking is not to be underestimated. The other side, of course, yeah, the mental health benefits, definitely. I think in some ways this is a more direct answer to your question. You're asking more about nature, and being in the nature for me is my opportunity to unwind, to switch off, to disconnect. I really find that, especially when I'm camping alone, I can just be quiet, dial everything down, take down the stress, take down any anxiety, kind of those things gradually get worked out of me, and I'm really at my most peaceful, like, internally in myself when I am out in the woods. I actually say to many of my friends and family that for me, I can think of nothing better than just having a small house out in the mountains somewhere, provided I have internet access and it's accessible by road. I really just can't think of anything that I would love more than to have a small, peaceful house away from civilization up in the mountains somewhere. That would make me really happy. One day. Thank you, Ian. Excellent question. next question is from my good friend Marcus, who actually featured in Gratitude Time Jimbowalks 5, I believe. And he sent me a really beautiful message via YouTube. Just to take a question from his message, what has driven me to start the channel? In some sense, this is an extension of my answer to a previous question from Ian about nature. So starting this channel has provided me with an opportunity to be where I most want to be, which is outdoors with nature, with doing something productive. So I really felt like I needed a project in life. I needed something to focus on, to dedicate some time to. To be honest, I really wanted to produce something that I could be proud of, like irrespective of the results or the future of the channel. I just wanted to do something that would give me a sense of being productive and positive and pursuing something that's interesting to me. I also wanted to set a positive example to my daughter. I wanted her to see her dad being persistent with something, working hard at something, and being consistent. So yeah, lots of different reasons why I started the channel. I had also just been curious as to how all of this works. I had never had a YouTube channel before. I have had some social media channels in the past, but years ago, and I deleted all of that and I got away from all of social media. But I was curious to see how those things would work from the perspective of a creator. So I guess following the curiosity of how all of this works was one of the main driving forces to me having started this channel as well. Amazing question, and thank you for your wonderful message, Marcus. Okay, so I'm here. So, picture the scene. I'm in a national park in the hills of the Sierra Nevada. I'm at San Miguel Alto. There's a flash in the sky. I can see a light like flickering through and shining again through the trees and everything, and it's just about 10 meters from me. So our next question was actually not from a friend or family, but was from a viewer of one of my channels and a subscriber. It's Living with the Wolf, and she said, "What's your craziest camping experience?" There have been a few. There have been a few, but I think my first stealth camping at San Miguel el Alto here in Granada, that was a really strange experience. It was my first ever attempt at stealth camping, and I really just didn't know how any of this worked. I didn't know where I could or couldn't be. I didn't know if there was danger attached to what I was doing or not. It was just so much of the unknown, and there still is with every camp, but especially with that first one, I just had no idea if I was going to have to pack up and disappear in the middle of the night. I had no idea whether police would be called or whether people were patrolling the area. I really just didn't have any idea of what to expect. There was a moment in that stealth camp at around 10 p.m. and I had been dithering and procrastinating and avoiding setting up camp for hours because I really felt anxious about the whole situation. I didn't know where I should or shouldn't be, and actually I found a spot under a fallen tree which gave some flat ground and some sense of a shelter. With my bivvy bag, I laid everything out, my bag and everything. It was already more or less dark at this point. I remember I had a dilemma because I didn't want to set up camp whilst it was still light, because people could still be walking close by and they would clearly see somebody setting up camp, and perhaps that would have been a problem, I don't know. But I also didn't want to do it in a complete darkness because I wanted to really survey where I was and what I was doing, and for that very first stealth camp I just really didn't know how to do this, so I ended up doing a bit of both. And it was still just light enough that there was a little bit of light still in the sky, and it was a full moon as I recall. I had some visibility but very little, and just to give you an idea, there was a path about 5 meters in front of me, but it was a small path and I'm up in the hills. So just to give you a context, I'm there at San Miguel el Alto in the forest, in the national park, and yes, I am certainly in a remote location, but in the daytime it's a really popular walking area. So I had procrastinated for long enough. I decided now is the time. I have to just set my stuff out, my bag, my bivvy bag, and I was just sitting there. So I had just recorded a video providing an update, and just a few moments later, in the corner of my eye, I see this flashlight like scanning the area. It's flashing back and forth like this, and I'm just a few meters from the track, and this person is clearly on that track. They come closer and closer. So they're about 20 meters away, then they're 10 meters away, and then they're about 5 meters from me, and I can hear that there's this heavy panting and breathing, and someone's like a little panicked perhaps, and also a bit frustrated. You can hear like someone's stressed out and a bit scary. And as they come closer, I see that actually it's someone on a bike. So it's a cyclist, and this flashing of the light like this, kind of scanning the area, is because the light sitting on their handlebars is moving as they're trying to make their way along this path, and it's almost completely dark, with some distance from the main track. I assume what had happened is this person had just lost track of time. It had taken longer than they thought, and they had found themselves unexpectedly much later out somewhere where they didn't know where they were. So ultimately this cyclist is just a few meters from me in front. I'm sitting there. If they were to have turned, they would have seen me without a doubt, and absolutely if they had turned with their light, I would have lit up, and it could have really panicked and scared them. It obviously would have been really unnerving for me. Fortunately that didn't happen, but what did happen is that person continued a few more meters along the track, and then I think that they saw that the track just went further along, and they wanted to go up behind me, up towards the main track. My heart was just boom, 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 boom. They actually went off of their track and directly next to me, pushing the bike just a couple of meters to the left of me, and they were so close to me and just didn't see me. And I wanted to stay still, obviously, so I didn't even attempt to hide. I just was sitting there like this, thinking if they see me, who's going to be more freaked out? I don't know. That first stealth camp, the whole thing was kind of crazy, but that specific moment, I remember I could hear my own heart so loud at that moment, because it was so quiet. It was too late for the buzzing of insects in the day, but too early for the chirping of birds in the morning. So it was absolute silence. Just the sound of my heartbeat in my ears was so loud, and yeah, that was crazy. They'll never know that I was just sitting right there where they passed next to, and yeah. Thank you for your question, Living with the Wolf. Yeah, no, not really, but yeah, kind of. I have a question here from Craig, who again is a friend who featured in one of the gratitude videos in Jimbowalks 4, I believe. And Craig has said via Twitter, do you ever really relax on your stealth camps? And of course, like, the easy answer is to say no. You never really relax on a stealth camp. You're somewhere where you shouldn't be, somewhere that could potentially be dangerous, somewhere where you may not be welcome. Even if it's somebody just curious about why you're there, having that type of interaction in that environment at that time of night often is obviously a potentially dangerous and stressful situation, and you more or less carry that thought in your mind the entire time. But actually, I would say, if I'm inside my bivvy bag, my rucksack is at my feet, and everything is with me enclosed within the bivvy bag, there's no real street lighting close by, and I'm not making any noise. In some sense, yes, I think you can relax. And I think on my second stealth camp, my urban stealth camp in Saidin, I think I was able to relax in that instance. It was actually, ironically, I was my most relaxed when there was this car collision on the main road just 20 meters from me. So maybe that will teach me a lesson to never get too comfortable, because just as I was calm and relaxed, and bang, this collision in the road, and that certainly shook me up for sure. But yes, I think it is possible to be relaxed on a stealth camp, but you do need a good sleeping shelter system in order for you to feel some sense of security and also for you to have some comfort. If you're super uncomfortable, obviously that's never going to be a relaxing experience. And likewise, I could feel really comfortable in a really nice air mattress and a nice tent, feel really comfortable. But if I'm in an area where I'm very vulnerable, then of course that's also not going to be a relaxing experience. So I don't want to put anyone off stealth camping and wild camping. I think it can be an amazing experience. As with most things in life, preparation is really important when going into an unknown situation, but also just taking sensible precautions is really something that can't be underestimated. Craig, that's a great question. Thank you so much for asking it.